Call this evening's meeting to order. This is the regular city council meeting for Tuesday, June 18th, 2024. Could I have a roll call, please?
Councilman Bennett.
Here.
Councilman Carter.
Here.
Councilwoman Davey.
Here.
Mayor Gillis.
Here.
Councilwoman Harris.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Martin.
Here.
Councilman Williams.
Here.
All right.
Can we have a moment of silent prayer? Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I have a motion to approve this evening's agenda?
So moved.
Support. Comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have one presentation this evening. We have Mr. Andy Campbell, a CPA Director at Baker Tilly Municipal Advisors, to give a presentation on bonds. Mr. Campbell?
Appreciate it. So I'll try to be respectful. I know you got some other things on the agenda here, but this will take a little bit of time, so,
Take your time, sir, this is really
Please.
important, so take your time.
So, first off, introduction. So, Andy Campbell of Baker Tilly. I am a registered municipal advisor with the SEC and then also a CPA. We work with about 400 communities in the state of Michigan. We help communities all across the state with bond issuance, and we also do water and sewer rate studies. So, very, very familiar with Michigan finance, federal finance rules, how we came to the city. We have not worked with the city before. We do a lot, and we'll talk about this today, we do a lot of bond issuance across the state, and your local bank that guided you in the direction of us, and we work with a lot of communities that are similar to Oganac. So, just gonna go through tonight about just a general presentation about the projects that you have on potentials, and kind of answer questions. If you have any questions at all, please don't wait till the end. We can go on tangents as much as you want in terms of kind of talking through this stuff. It is important to kind of get an idea of the process here. I'll give you kind of the 30,000 foot level and then go into the weeds on a little bit here. But ultimately, before we get into the presentation, bond and loan, I'm going to give you the general definitions here. Bond and loan are the exact same thing, essentially. When people talk about borrowing in a municipal world, it is done through a bond issuance, which is just another term for a loan. It essentially is the way that governments in Michigan have to codify the debt to make it legal. But it's a loan. It's just like if you were to take out a loan yourself, it's just the formal process that's done by resolution of council and or a vote of the people to become an official obligation of the government. So you'll hear those terms interchangeably. We're going to kind of go into the presentation here. The overview, I'm going to skip right over that and get into the meat here. That's obviously going to go over what we're going to talk about today. And we're going to start with the potential projects. So tonight we're going to concentrate on the first two, the pool and the boardwalk. So we've had a couple discussions here with Alicia and Denise, and kind of going through a little bit of background, getting me up to speed, and then obviously putting this presentation together. I'm going to start with the last one here, the recreation center and housing. It seemed like a future project. It just basically you can kind of lump that into the options are very similar. When you start talking about that type of project in the future, you can kind of use that for guidance about what to do potentially for that. We're not going to go too much into those tonight. Just know that when you do, if there is a private development component of any project whatsoever, if anything happens where there's a private entity involved along with you, then that changes taxability questions, and there are some other things you have to worry about. But pools, boardwalks, pretty straightforward, and we're going to talk about the options here. next page for me. So, first off, why are we talking about borrowing? So, the first general question that we get when we present to communities about potential projects is, why can't the city just afford this? Why can't, like, I pay my taxes to the city, why can't you just pay for this stuff? One of the most general misconceptions that it's important for me that, again, we only work for local units, we do not work with the state and federal government. It's important for me to be clear in saying that, one of the biggest misconceptions about the way that people pay taxes in the state of Michigan is that the taxes are paid to the city, but you do not keep it all, as you on council know. And that is one of the biggest reasons why communities have a problem with, educating taxpayers about like what you can and cannot afford. Because when taxes are paid to the city, most of that's going out the door to the other entities, because you are collecting on behalf of the other entities. So it's going to the schools, it's going to the county, it's going to ISDs, it's going to whatever other entities are out there taxing, you just collect and forward it to them. So, one of the public questions that we get often when we do these presentations is like, we pay you a lot of money in tax money, like where's it all going, why can't we just fund a $3 million pool? Well, the problem is essentially is like you're only getting a portion of the taxes, you have other concerns that you're worried about, you have a lot of things that you're funding through the city. A pool may not be top priority, we're gonna talk about, it might be some of it's top priority, we're gonna talk about priority listed in order and such, but essentially, the city does not have unlimited funds. You do have to prioritize projects, you have to figure out what is important to the community. Sometimes you're gonna ask the community what's important to them through a vote or some other process. Those are the decisions that we're gonna talk about tonight, but ultimately, the city does not have unlimited funds to go do a $3 million pool project or a $4 million boardwalk project, and we need to talk about a loan/bond. And I'll kind of speak for myself and just again talking to the working group here on a couple aspects of it. We did kind of talk through a little bit of your general fund budget, so I know some of it. Again, that we have not worked with the city, but I'm gonna kind of give you generalities as I understand them tonight, with qualifications that Denise could step in here if I miss something. But essentially, when you do bond programs that are not water sewer, so a lot of the bonding that's done through communities is water sewer, and we'll talk about that in a second here. But the bond processes typically take 3 to 4 months. So if you were to say, we want to do this project, pool, boardwalk, whatever it may be, and you have the money to pay for the bonds, which is something we'll talk about in a second here, you can get money in the bank in 3 to 4 months. Both of those projects do comply with that process. So if the decision tonight or decision in the near future was that we want to do XYZ project, it's gonna cost us this amount of money, we have the money to pay for it over 20 years or 30 years or whatever the term is, then you can get money in the bank and do money in the bank for your project within 3 to 4 months. Now, why, if you talk to like maybe your neighboring communities or something, sometimes you'll hear why does it take longer for communities? Why are some communities telling me the bonding process takes longer than 3 to 4 months? Generally speaking, that's because they're going through government programs to try to get their funds. So when you talk about where to get project funding, there's 3 general areas that communities in the state of Michigan go to: the federal government, the state government, and then what's called the general open market. If a bond process takes longer than 4 months, it's generally one of 2 reasons. It's either they're going to the government to try to get the money, which red tape government processes, or they're voting the process, which we'll talk about in a second, about when and why you would do that. But starting with where to get funding, so another thing actually to tag on to what I was talking about before, why can't the city just do these projects? Why don't you have money to pay for a pool? Why don't you have money to pay for a boardwalk? One of the biggest misconceptions out in Michigan right now, and this is, I would assume, nationwide, I only work with communities in Michigan, but is that there's a bunch of federal money out there. Why can't we just go get money and and do these, or grant, or whatever, or we pay you, like, but that stuff is very limited to certain situations. One of the problems that you're gonna have is that, and I, obviously in my job, I can't play politics, I really don't care which side of the aisle you're on, or if you're on no side of the aisle right now, but, the reality of like what's going through from the federal government and such, and that obviously changes with administrations, is that most of that is targeted towards water sewer projects. And then further in that, it's targeted towards communities that have very low median household incomes. So, the projects that you're talking about will not qualify for any federal assistance as far as I'm aware. We will talk about one caveat. So I got one caveat at the end that you may want to pursue. But general federal grants or state grants or anything, I have not heard of anything that for a boardwalk or pool. Generally speaking, they're more geared towards infrastructure.
And it's federal.
That you can get both, but it's usually layered from the federal to the
Yeah,
state.
it's
So,
harder federally
Yes,
than
absolutely.
state.
Yes, federal has way more red tape
Yeah.
and requirements, yes. So just going through, because I want to give you kind of, I know the city has not borrowed, and done bonding or anything for a long time, so just want to kind of give you an overview so that you know, if you talk to another community about their experiences, what may have been different for them, but, USD rural development, so going back to the three ways to get money: federal government, state money, state government, and open market. USD rural development is the federal side, obviously. That process is generally speaking just for water sewer, and they do help you with like police vehicles, fire trucks, like equipment type things. Not qualified for pool or boardwalk. State government, state revolving fund, very popular program right now. But that is only for water and sewer. So again, not what we're talking about tonight. The point at the bottom is what we're talking about tonight, which is the general open market. The reality is that somebody will lend you money for your project. There's brokers out there that will be happy, and I'll talk about that in a second here, but then there's banks. I know you talk to North Star Bank about potentially getting money. Somebody will give you the money for the project. So whatever project you come up with, the city will have good enough credit to get the funds. It's really going through the process and making sure that you can afford it. How do you ask for a vote on it or not, and all of that we're gonna go through in a second here, but generally speaking, banks and brokers will always give you the money, and somehow, how do you get the money, is on the next slide here.
And that's what I was curious, since we're right there too.
Yep.
And because does it make a difference and play in our favor that we don't have, we have no bonds or loans outstanding right now?
I will say, it actually, it plays against you partially.
Really?
Generally speaking, and this is just, I gotta speak in generalities here, this, in some of this stuff, but, generally speaking, communities, it's very equivocal to when you get your first credit card. When you get your first credit card, there's a lower limit, they're kind of worried about whether or not you're gonna pay them back. They trust you, and obviously being a government, it's different than being a personal person with your credit card. But once you've proven that you can handle debt, and you know how to do it, you know how to pay it back, then it opens up a little bit more. And they're like, okay, well now you know you're a little bit more schooled in debt, you know, like, so I will say, generally speaking, we typically see like communities in their first foray into like with the open market, you're gonna have fine, your credit will be fine. I will say most likely you'll be in the A category if we do rating, which we'll talk about in a second here. You'll probably be in the A category. But usually your credit actually goes up slightly as long as you don't get like way out of bounds, as long as like you don't like start borrowing for everything. But as you prove that you can handle that and pay it back, you do typically see a little bit of a bump, and then it levels out at what your rating is. So
Because it was what, last year, the year before, that they had paid out, everything was paid off as of last year before.
yeah.
So,
I
just
mean,
curious.
it is very good that you're not overloaded with that.
Right.
So, but. and that's-
Just curious, it was one of those things.
Yeah. So actually, gonna go through banks and brokers here first. So, open market, what are these, and like why am I here tonight? So, Again, my job is called a registered municipal advisor. We are independent. So even though like your bank put you in our direction, we have no association with the bank, we have no association with brokers, completely independent. We are advising communities across the state on the way to get through all these bonding programs. So we advise communities to go through USDA, SRF, open market banks, brokers. We have no tie to anybody. We are a completely independent financial advisor. When you start talking about, I'm gonna start at the bottom on brokers. So first off, a lot of people are not familiar, like what is a broker? A broker is commonly called an investment bank. A broker is essentially a temporary holder, a reseller. What they do is they match the investors of debt with the issuers of the debt and are basically a selling liaison for you to find each other. So whereas you may go to a bank and borrow money, you may go to a broker. The problem is like if your bank, you can't find, your bank says no for some reason, which we'll talk about in a second here, you don't necessarily know like how do you reach the people that are gonna buy your bonds. The brokers are the way that you do that. So they are the ones that essentially have the market to sell any bond issue possible, realistically. Brokers will bid on everything. They're essentially chopping up your bond issue and selling it to insurance companies, mutual funds, mom and pop, investors, banks. They resell the banks. I mean, they're the ones that basically find the market for you to sell your debt. And that's why that they're involved, they're a third-party reseller. When we talk about pools and boardwalks, we're gonna talk more in depth about those projects in a second here, but pools and boardwalks, you realistically, legally go up to 30 years. So legally speaking, the city is allowed to borrow for these projects up to 30 years or the useful life of the asset, whichever is less. So if your engineer says your boardwalk is only gonna last you 15 years, then you can only borrow for 15 years because state law does not allow you to, they don't want you to be put in a position where you're paying off debt for an asset that you have to replace again. So that's the caveat, but state law allows you to, as a community, to borrow up to 30 years for these projects. So again, the way that we came in contact with the city was through your local bank. Why not just go to the local bank? So why do we need to have this presentation? Why can't we just go to the local bank? There's a couple caveats to that. It's very different when you talk about municipals versus personal life. So one of the things that we talk about with communities that's very important to understand is that in your personal life, you can do anything that you want unless there's a law prohibiting you from doing it. In municipal world, it's the complete opposite. You cannot do anything at all unless there's what is called an Enabling Act to allow you to do that. The bond issue process, whether it's through a bank, broker, government, that process, which is a formal process and that involves a bond attorney, it has to be a licensed bond attorney in the state of Michigan. They do resolutions, they do make sure it's all legal. That process is very formal, making sure that the government is ultimately putting up its taxpayers to make sure that you are now have a bond issue that you must fund as a community. And they don't allow, the state does not allow you to just go to the local bank and sign a traditional loan agreement and say, hey, we need to borrow $3 million, can you give it to us? There are processes and requirements for the state to make sure that essentially your taxpayers know what is happening and why, and that it's all done legally. The other reason that we're gonna talk about is that banks, typically, it depends on some banks, I don't necessarily know North Star's case right now, but typically banks will not allow bonds to go longer than 15 years. Most banks will actually not allow longer than 10 years. So when we start talking about project funding and start talking about budgets, that's gonna be very important about what actually happens here of like, if you wanna do project A or project B, and we start talking about budgets and what you can afford, then you start working into, is that affordable over 10 years or 15 years? It's just like a home mortgage, like it would be great to pay a pool off in 5 years, but can you afford the payments, is the other aspect of it. So we gotta start talking about like what the project cost is, what does that mean in terms of a 10-year payment, 15-year payment, 30-year payment? And then you start backing into, okay, will the bank even allow us to borrow for 20 years or 30 years? There's all those questions that come with, like obviously, like we would like to work with you guys, but we don't take that for granted, but that's why a financial advisor guides you through these processes. So helping you through the debt payments, where you get the money, how you get the money, getting you the money, all that process. Now we're gonna get to how to get project funding. Again, there's a lot of details, and I'm kind of giving you the background here before we get into the projects, but I do think it's important because you do ultimately have some major decisions that are gonna have to be made on these projects, especially the pool side. So I want you to be aware of like all the different aspects here going into this. So not gonna talk too much on this slide, but essentially with being an independent advisor, generally speaking, you're going to shop it out when you start talking about bonds. Unless your local bank is willing to give you a great deal, some of them are. Some of them are willing to give you a below market deal, which we can help you assess what the market is at. You're generally speaking going to, if you're gonna do any project funding, you're just gonna shop it out, and whoever gives you the best deal is whoever you're gonna take. You want the best deal for your taxpayers, doesn't matter if it's broker A or broker B, it's whoever's gonna give you the best financial deal. They're all the same in terms of the city. It's not like one is going to perform better. It's not like construction where, maybe your local contractor will be more, attuned with what the community wants or be more available for questions or anything. Bonds are bonds. You don't care if it's broker A or broker B. If broker A is gonna give you a lower interest rate and better terms, you're taking broker A. So, when you start talking about project funding, this is usually where it gets in, like, this is usually the easy part of it. Once we get through that process, and it is a process of deciding what you wanna do, when you wanna do it, what you can afford in terms of a term, are we going to go for a vote, which again, we'll talk about in a second here. Then it really gets into the easier process of like, we help you with the processes to finalize there. We shop it out, we get you the best terms, and bond sale, bond closing, it's all good. So, this is usually just the process, and there's a lot of other decisions that council needs to make. This is more just formalities. Next thing here, so I wanna talk about security, because this is going to go into when I talk about, what are the possibilities here with pool and boardwalk. So I wanna kind of back up for a second here and talk about, the possibilities of what are called limited tax and unlimited tax bonds. When you start talking about pool and boardwalk, you have two essential credits that you can issue as a community, which is called limited tax, general obligation, LTGO, unlimited tax, general obligation, UTGO. Both have debt limits. You're fine on debt limits. You do not need, debt limits in Michigan, realistically speaking, are to keep you within control of being really out there. They're not very restrictive, so it is not what you can afford in quotations. It's purely guidelines that the state does not want you to exceed. But you're gonna be fine in debt limits. We won't get too much into that. You can have those if you wanna look into what your debt limits are, but essentially, just so you know, like right now, your overall debt limit is gonna be about 25 million or so. But not saying that we go out and borrow $25 million. It's just like, you can tell, like, that's obviously very loose in terms of what you're allowed to do. But one of the important things here is on the bottom. With the pool and boardwalk, one of the main decisions of why I'm here tonight, that the city council is going to have to decide on behalf of the people as elected representatives, is do you pursue a vote for one or more of these projects? Why would you do a vote? So, voting debt is very common in school world, pretty much all they do. So anytime you look at like a school project, I don't know, honestly, it's another partner that works on our side for the schools, but I believe we work with all kinds of schools, don't quote me on that, but we work with Anchor Bay, I know. But let's say Anchor Bay is doing a $100 million project. They because of their rules, have to go to the taxpayers and ask for them to approve that. So you need a 50+1 vote, you need 50% plus one to say yes to that and say, we are willing to pay additional taxes for it. In the city's case, you have two different routes. You can either say, we're gonna go vote it, so you could put it on the ballot November of this year and say, hey, we want you to consider, an additional tax for the pool, or an additional tax for the boardwalk, or both. Whatever you decide, that can be put on the ballot in November. That decision has to be made in July, if you're gonna do that, I will say, so you're on a little bit of a tight timeline, that's why we're here tonight. But you could put something on the ballot in November, just ask the people to say, will you support a new tax for this project, yes or no? You need 50% plus one to say yes in order to move forward. In lieu of doing a vote, again, council is the elected representatives of the people, that's why you're here to make the big decisions, that's why you get paid the big bucks, is to say, do you wanna do a vote? So, you as a community do not have to vote projects by the people. There is, what's called limited tax general obligation that says the community is going to get into debt for this project. I'm just gonna say the pool project, just as it's on the top of my head, we're gonna borrow $2.3 million to do the pool. Instead of a vote, there's what's called a referendum. So in lieu of the vote, the council takes action and says, we're going to potentially pursue this project. You describe the project, the maximum amount you can borrow, and then it runs a 45-day referendum instead of a vote. So the people now have it on them to say, we don't want you to do the project. If more than 10% of your electorate signs a petition to stop the project, it is then forced to a vote. So you have both options as a city to say, we just want to put this on the ballot, let the people decide, we don't want to, like, essentially you're just saying, hey, do you want to do this? If you do, great, but we're gonna need an additional tax if you wanna do this. That's option, that's the UTGO. Or you can say, hey, we as a community think that this is the way that we wanna do this project. We're gonna do a limited tax unless you tell us to stop it. The caveat to that, so why does it sound so easy in terms of like not having to do a vote and all that stuff? The caveat to number 2 of limited tax is that you have to pay it out of your general obligation, your general fund. So you can only do projects out of limited tax with your current taxes. So you don't get to raise new taxes for that project now. If you as council say, we wanna fund the pool, it's $2.3 million, and we're gonna pay it off over 20 years, then you run the referendum and people don't say no, they say nothing, you typically won't hear anything, or you don't hear, like, you don't get the 10% of petitions, then you can go forward with the project and legally issue the debt. But you have to have the current taxes in the general fund every single year to pay for that debt payment. You do not get to add a new tax onto the people. So that's the big difference. When you think limited, think current budget. When you talk about unlimited, new tax. So those are the big differences. That's what one of the big things we're talking about tonight. Do you have a question?
Unlimited,
Yep.
please explain that again.
This is the vote. So
This is not this is a referendum vote, or?
no, this is a vote of the people on a general election to add a new
Okay.
tax. So you have unlimited means new tax for a project. Limited means no new tax. General fund pays for it. So let's go to limited tax. So let's say either or, thank you. Let's say, now I'm just gonna continue to use the pool just for ease of examples here, but let's say, okay, I understand that the pool, we have bids in hand, which, puts us a little bit behind the game because generally speaking, that process goes a little bit, further out into the bond process that these decisions are typically made, but still on track if you wanna go forward with it. But if you want to move forward with the bid that you have in hand on the pool project, you would have to do a limited tax general obligation. So how this potentially works with what you're talking about right now is that, a contractor has given you a proposal and said, we will we will do the pool project for this amount of money. You typically, I don't remember if we talked about this, but you typically have 60 to 90 days to sign and agree to do that or not. They typically, there's a bid hold period, it's called, where they are going to hold their price for you to make a decision as a community for 60 to 90 days. They will not hold it forever though. So they're not going to tell you, I'll do the pool for this amount of money now, but you can't make that decision in 2025 and hold them to the same price. They're gonna most likely give you a new price. So they give you 60, 90 days to say, do you wanna do it? If you wanna do it, if you say that price is good, we wanna do the pool, this is the only option, is to say, limited tax general obligation, we gotta pay it out of our general fund. We're gonna talk about bond payments here in a second, but it is possible with a little, like, some semantics that I don't wanna really get into tonight, that just some legal process and stuff that have to kind of be flipped around. But it is possible to go forward and do the pool project and say, we wanna start this limited tax general obligation process and issue a bond. Kind of a very, very dumbed down timetable. So we talk about the project, July 2nd meeting, you start that referendum process. So you council say, we're gonna pay it out of our general fund, we're gonna start the referendum process, and then it starts the 45 days for people to say no. You could have a bond sale done in late August and closing mid-September, with money in hand on closing.
So then, I'm curious, if we were to go that route, could we still apply, throw some, should this grant or that grant pop up and apply for, give it a shot at this grant or that grant? Can we still do that and use that grant money along with this to maybe,
So typically I will
If
give
that makes
you,
sense.
yeah, there's always exceptions to the rule, but I'll give you the standard answer is that any grant process typically needs to be done by bond sale day. Because
Okay.
that's when you're telling the buyer, like, this is how much you're borrowing and over what terms. Bonds in general, again, there's a lot of exceptions to this stuff, but in general, bonds have a call protection, which essentially means that you cannot pay them off for a period of years. So if you were, let's say you were to go forward on the quickest timetable and you were saying, we wanna do the pool, we're gonna borrow $2.3 million, and we close in mid-September, and you get a grant in 25. You still wanna get the grants, don't get me wrong, but you're gonna basically be put in a position where, the funds that you borrowed, you can't pay back, you're just gonna essentially use the funds that you borrowed to pay the bond payments for a while. You're gonna essentially borrow the money and pay it back, and you're still gonna pay interest on it, so.
thank you.
Grants need to be done before the sale, is
Got
the
it.
official answer.
Thank you.
So, that's an example timetable. Let's go to unlimited tax. So, this is something I'm gonna give you a lot of generalities as I talk about your exceptions to everything in what we do, but when you talk about why do, again, not looking at schools that have to vote everything, why do communities vote projects? Generally speaking, I would say 95+% of bond issues that are done by communities, and I'm talking villages, townships, cities, counties, authorities, are done without a vote of the people. That is the typical process for communities. Water sewer is rarely done with a vote because it's paid out of water sewer rates. Pools, boardwalks, that might have some exceptions to the rules, but essentially, most communities do that limited tax process. They have money in the general fund to pay for the debt every year. They believe that this is the project that they need to pursue. This is why council is here. Council's acting on behalf of the people to do the project, and you go forward. Why do communities vote bonds? So going to the other side, again, unlimited means new tax, new vote with the people. Why do communities vote bonds? Two general reasons. One, you don't have the budget to pay for something, so if you, and I will say just flat out, like when the numbers that we talked about in our discussion, the city does not have the funds to pay for both of these projects. So if you were to pursue both of these projects, you would need to vote one, the other, or both. You cannot afford, in your general fund to pay for the pool and the boardwalk without new taxes, or grants, or something. So that's mainly reason number one, is the community says, hey, like, we really wanna do this project, we really wanna do the pool, but we can't afford to do it. We have other things that we need to do, we don't have the general fund to back it up, we need to ask for a new tax. That's mainly reason number one. The other reason that commonly comes up is, again, people are gonna think differently, but, commonly, it's called a, what's a nice way to say this? It's the way that council and the people just, it's not a critical asset, let's say. So, commonly you see votes for wish list items is the best way to say it. So, you don't want to put a vote on the ballot to replace the sewer main out on this main road, because if it fails, you still have to maintain it, you still have to do it, it's critical asset, you can't shut down, you can't just not have sewer. So generally, you're just gonna do it, you're gonna pay for it out of your sewer rates and just go forward. But a wish list item, and I'm gonna make sure I don't offend everybody in this room. Let's say, you wanted to put up park benches everywhere, and you wanted to borrow $2 million for park benches, and you said, well, that's really not our priority, let's just put it on the ballot. If the people really wanna do it and they're willing to pay tax, we'll do it. But we really need to put that on the ballot because we don't have the money to do that. That's a wish list item. That's ultimately the main two reasons why communities vote projects, is can't afford it, or it's a wish list. So that's what you as the council essentially need to decide, is like, potentially, does it qualify for one of those two, or both of the two, and do we put it on the ballot? It is still possible, as I talked about, to put something on the ballot for November of 2024. The decision would have to be made in one of your July meetings in order to do that. The county clerk has to have the ballot language approved by council. It's around, right there, August 13th. So, you essentially would have to make the action in July. It is possible to do that, though, I will say. It's not, we've had this discussion many times over the past few weeks. We have many communities that are gonna be putting stuff on the ballot in November, that are gonna be making decisions in July. This is not like you're rushing to get to the vote. There's still, to get to a vote is not that you have to, I mean, you can still have, and don't get me wrong, like, you can still have open houses and educational pamphlets and all that stuff, but the decision to put something on the ballot is purely an act of the council by resolution. You don't need to have everything, the education, done before you make that action. You could just say as a council, we wanna put this on the ballot, and then do the education while the county clerk has the language. So you can still make this decision in July and say, hey, we wanna put XYZ project on the ballot, put it on the ballot in November if you decide to. Different schools of thought, I will say, about putting something on the presidential election. You're gonna get a big turnout, I can tell you that. You'll get a lot of people that will vote, and if that's the decision, is that you want the most people to vote and decide on a project, you're for sure, November 24 is your time, because, there will be a lot of people there. So, that's what you look forward to if you decide to do that. So, let's go to, how do we make that decision? So firstly, talk about limited tax general fund, unlimited tax, vote with a new tax. How do we decide? So we talk about a pool, we talk about a boardwalk. Again, so the estimates that were in the presentation earlier, the pool project, current estimate is $3 million. We have a couple grants for those that bring the cost down to $2.3 million. The boardwalk is still an estimate, it is at $4 million. How do you decide what you wanna do? First off is like, you need a financial person to tell you what are the options. So we ran kind of just conservative enough, not too conservative, but conservative enough scenarios to say different borrowing amounts over 20 and 30 years to kind of, to get everybody in tune with like, what are interest rates? What are potential payments? Where does our affordability come into play? So the 2.3 million is intended to be for the pool. That's the project amount that we've targeted for the pool right now. If you borrow 2.3 million over 20 years, a general conservative interest rate is 4.5% right now. That would be 185,000 per year. So you can see all the different
When you
scenarios
say
there.
conservative rate, you're thinking that, it could be lower than that or higher than that?
Those essentially are about 50.50% conservative right now.
What do you mean by conservative?
So if you were to sell today, you would get 4% over 20 years. So they build in about 0.50% to each one. So one of the main things we were talking about and why I kind of jumped to one of the conclusions about affordability and that you can't do both out of your current general fund budget. So again, I just ask the administration to step in here if I get off too much, but we kind of looked at where the general fund has been in the past. So your first marker that we look at is, where's the general fund been, how, like over the past 3 years? Are you gaining money, are you losing money? That's the first thing. We kind of do an analysis about what's, a discussion about what's gonna change in the general fund, if something drastic is changing in the budget over the next couple of years that we have to know. But just very comfortably, I will say, like, just estimates, I'm gonna qualify the heck out of it. We talked about, it might be possible to fund like $200,000 a year of debt payments out of the general fund, but we're not going to, like, if we, so you can see, if we combine a 30-year bond, or excuse me, a 30-year bond for the pool at 150,000, and then we do the boardwalk again for 30 years at 260, that's a total of 410, can't afford it. Like, the maximum, like, that we wanna talk about at least tonight right now is a $200,000 bond payment out of general fund, is like, where we're comfortable, at least in initial discussions, of taking on new debt without new taxes. So, that gets me to the discussion about, you have a pool project that you wanna do potentially $2.3 million for. You have a boardwalk that's still on estimate, but we're talking about potentially $4 million for. There is an argument to be made that the boardwalk may be too expensive to pay out of general fund at all, if it's $4 million. Maybe we use a little bit of our cash to knock down the bond payments, just like if you were to pay down do a down payment on your house. Maybe you knock down the bond payments by contributing some of your cash up front. There's options on that potentially, but it does get to the point of saying that if we want to do both, you're going to have to consider a vote. So the next thing comes into play of like, which one do you want to vote? If we're going to do both these projects, I don't want to assume anything, but why would you vote the pool? Why would you vote the boardwalk? Why would you vote both? I'll kind of give you generalities here for just a second here. So we actually talked a lot about that already, so I'm going to go to the next one here. So continue on with the voting here. So why would you vote a pool versus a boardwalk? Again, we've already crossed the line of saying that we can't afford to pay for both these projects out of general fund, we need to vote. So you are in the position where you do need new taxes potentially if you want to do both projects. So now you are as a community have to decide, do you vote the pool, do you vote the boardwalk, do you vote both? That I can give you general guidelines. I obviously do not live here, and it's going to be different people are going to give you different opinions. You have a couple things I will tell you that you need to consider. Again, I do want to be very clear, like, if you want to accept the current project bid for the pool, you cannot do it with a vote unless you talk to the contractor and they're being very willing to extend the contract bid. Essentially, they would have to extend the contract bid period to after the vote in order for you to accept that bid. You as a community do not want to accept the contract with the contractor and put yourself in liability if you do not have a way to come up with the money. Once you have the vote done, you'll at least be it's still not fully protection because you don't have money in the bank yet. And I will say, like, legally, I gotta understand I'm in an open meeting, like, the best way to do it is have the funds in hand before you accept the contractor bid. There are ways that you can mitigate risk or accelerate risk if you want, but, you certainly wouldn't wanna do it until the vote happens, which is, I believe, November 5th or something, so, that is a very key point about that contractor bid though, because again, if you think that bid is like a really good bid and you wanna move forward with it, you're probably gonna have to look at paying the general fund, and then you're gonna have a decision to make is like, should the general fund pay for a pool? Which you're gonna talk about in a second, but, if you vote something, I do wanna kind of go into generalities here. I know I'm using way too much of your time, so I appreciate your give me some extra time here, but, so what do we, like, how do you vote something? So if you say, I think this is actually on the, yeah, so let's go to the next slide for me. So let's, again, I basically just use this, I don't wanna steer you in one direction or another. It's up to you as a community to decide if you wanna go with the pool, the project, or the boardwalk, or whatever. But I just wanted to kind of, this is a more known dollar amount, so I just wanted to kind of show everybody like how this all goes down. So let's say you decide, you know what, the contractor bid was really good, but, I don't think we should tie up the general fund for a pool. I think that the general fund needs to be for more critical services. Maybe the boardwalk as a community is more critical because, whatever reason, you think that that's like a very good tourism attraction, so it would be something that you really wanna maintain and have beautification and all that stuff. So maybe you just say, hey, let's reset, I don't wanna tie up the general fund for pool, let's put it out to a vote and ask the people for a new tax. What would that do? So $2.3 million, and I'm going over the top one here, $2.3 million over 20 years. The yearly payments are $185,000 per year. I kind of glazed over it, but on the last slide, 1 mil, so a mil is a taxing term, but 1 mil brings in approximately $130,000 per year right now for your community. Your taxable value as a community is just over 131 million. 1 mil brings in 130,000 per year. What would that do? We kind of give you a little chart to show how that would affect your typical taxpayer. So this has to be qualified heck, because taxable value in Michigan is a very screwed up way of doing things, but this is just a general guideline. A lot of if you've been in your house for a long time, this will not apply, I will give you that, but generally speaking, if you just bought your house and your market value is $300,000, generally speaking, your SEV and taxable value will be $150,000, which is half of market value. SEV is, your taxable value is $150,000, 1.43 mils is $215 per year to you. That's how it all breaks down. So if you have, every single vote has to be on taxable value, and it has to be on taxable value of each individual property. There's no other way to do it. You cannot vote it on anything. You can't vote it on geographics, like proximity to the pool or anything. It's purely, votes have to be on taxable value. Whatever taxable value of the house and property that the taxpayer owns, that's what it's all, every vote in Michigan is done like that. So if you have a more expensive value of a home, you will pay more for the pool, is what it comes down to be. So in this case, you would vote 1.43 mils, you put it on the ballot and say November 2024, we want to do a pool, but we've decided as a council that we need a new tax if we're going to do the pool. Will you vote for a new pool over 20, we're going to pay it off over 20 years? If you say yes, the estimated millage is 1.43 mils. That is a very key thing to know, and I will make sure that everybody in this room knows it, is that millages are always estimates. It ebbs and flows with your taxable value. If your taxable value goes way up because property value goes up, then that millage would go down. If we get into another recession and taxable values plummet, your millage goes up. You have to levy, by law, you have to levy what is required to make your next year's debt payments. So right now, it would be 1.43 mils, but if you hit a recession and you had to go up to 2 mils, you gotta go up to 2 mils. If everything's great and continue to rise in taxable values, then maybe it goes down to 1.4 mils or something. That it always ebbs and flows with the taxable value. That's good. This whole thing is all scalable. So if you decide to do $4 million for the boardwalk, and I mean, I can obviously help you with that, but you can just, it's all simple math. You can just say, these are the debt payments, you divide it by the millage, or see like the taxable value to get your millage and go forward. So, last slide here, and then I'm gonna wrap up with if anybody has final questions, but I threw a lot at you. So, we always end with like, how do we decide and take action? So, the first thing you need to decide as a community is, do you want to accept that pool construction bid or not? If you want to accept the pool construction bid, the first thing to do is to talk to the contractor and say, how long will you hold your bid? If, I know there's always like, there is stated terms in the bid right now. You're currently in what's called the bid hold period right now. So they have a stated term that says that this bid ends on this date, you have to take action by this date. Some contractors are more flexible than others. I don't know what the expectations are that you put on the contractor, but the contractor may have already priced it and said, hey, I'm not gonna start construction on this until 2025, so if you tell me by December, I'm good. Some contractors operate that way. Some of them may say, no, the contract says this, you have to tell me by this. That's the first thing you need to know is that, so as a community, you need to decide if you wanna move forward with the pool out of general fund, you need to talk to the contractor immediately to figure out what they're willing to do with the bid hold. Then, as a community, we need to decide, are you wanting to do both of these projects? Are you wanting to do the pool? Are you wanting to do the boardwalk? Both of them. It doesn't matter if it's this year, next year, or the year after. If you wanna do both of them, then it leads to the next decision of like, which one do you wanna vote? Because again, you can't afford to do both of them without new taxes. So if you say, yes, we wanna do both of these projects, then we need to decide when and how you're gonna vote one or more of the projects. Those are the two like main critical pieces of like getting to action and taking steps moving forward, is getting those answers done, because then that will lead you to the next steps of like how you're getting the projects financed, timing of bond issuance, timing of the projects, all that stuff starts to layer in after you make those first few decisions of what to do. So, questions?
Yes, sir. I don't have a question, but I have a comment. And I want everybody to realize that when we looked at those bond payments, the pool runs at a deficit. So whatever those bond payments are, the pool is also gonna cost the community at least $40,000 a year. So we need to figure that out.
I had that in my notes, but I forgot about that, so thank you for bringing that up. So, real quick, can we go back to, slide
Yeah, I think that's in there.
10, slide 10. I appreciate you bringing that up because I had that in my notes. Just forget about all my babbling here. So, this is just for the project borrowing. So yes, very good point to say that the boardwalk, I think, is completely different because typically, and I could be way off here, but typically that's gonna be a project where you get it done and it's gonna be very little maintenance, hopefully, unless like something really bad happens with the water or something. But generally speaking, you're just gonna do like ongoing maintenance and cleaning it off and screws and all of whatever else you gotta do. But the pool is a different story. When you start talking about a pool, you could be put in a position where, okay, general fund pays for the bond, but if you do have, it takes money to operate a pool. It's not free, you got liability insurance, you got people, you got chemicals, you got all these costs to continually to maintain the pool. You don't wanna just put the pool in there and then run it into the ground and never, and then feel like you didn't do it.
If I could, and I appreciate the comments, but the $40,000 we were losing, a big chunk of that was due to the water leaking out of that 55-year-old pool. That was a big part of the cost. Will we still lose money on it? Yes. I don't think it'll be that much, but I would ask mayor or ask the city manager, cause I don't remember, although I did know, of the last final full year that we had the pool open, how many people used the pool? Do you remember?
Mrs. Gerstenberg?
Thank you, Mayor Gillis. Councilman members, I don't have the number, how many
If
people.
I
I know there
remember
were
right, it was like-
65 kids that took swimming lessons that last year.
I wanna say it was like 1,200 altogether, if I remember right.
I do not have that information with me, but I can find that out.
So not a lot of us actually used the pool. And I know part of that was because cold water, I hate cold water. You know, that's something we have to look into. Do I want a pool? Heck, yeah. How many people's gonna, you know, and out of that, I could be wrong, but if I remember right, it was 1,165, and I don't have it in my notes. A lot of that was, the same people coming back again, and from other communities. And that's another reason why, as Councilman Martin said, we don't make money on that pool. And that's a concern of mine too.
If I can, just real quick, I just wanna tie up something, so I meant more in like concept, so let's say it's 20,000, you need extra funds to run the pool. What I do wanna make sure that you know is like, you can add that to the vote. So this was just to give you generalities about project funding, but let's say you say, we don't have the ability to pay for the operations of the pool on a general fund, as well as the project. You can vote them at the same time, under one vote. So that was more, just wanna make sure that you knew that, of saying, if the bond payments are $150,000 a year and we need an extra $30,000 a year to operate the pool, you can do that as one vote and ask the people for essentially $180,000 a year at one time to both build and operate the pool. So that is possible. That was the reason I wanted to bring it up, but other questions?
Yeah, and again, this is a comment like Ray made. Because I know you were discussing with the contract, and we have, you know, this amount of time with their bids that they've given us. Say we decide that we want to go with the no tax and pay for this energy. I would think that we would have to seriously look at, possibly scaling down the design of this pool, which, you know, that kind of takes us out of the issue that we're having with having to do with us being at the mercy of our contractor. And only, you know, they're saying, look, you know, TikTok, you gotta give us an idea. But at that point, I would think, if we want to go ahead and do this with, where it's a vote by us and not asking for a new tax, as much as you hate to do, start from ground one, back again, which you hate to have to do, but we're in there.
Well,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
when we were at ground one for the pool, it was $700,000 when we started. And then it ballooned to $1.8 million with the add-ons that a few citizens were recommending. And then the bids came in at almost $3 million.
Well, if this,
That's start to where we are.
if we remember right, because I was involved, and we have people who were on that committee here, Gail Anthony and Diane Chmielewski. The $700,000 originally was to fix the old worn out pool. And council at the time said, fix it for almost $1 million. And then, pre-COVID, we looked at the pool, 1.8 million, okay? But then what happened? COVID happened. Everything's gone up. Anybody go to Kroger lately? Everything's gone up. Things that you order from overseas, it all went up. We thought we were gonna get, and I commend our city staff of trying to get grants. We had to wait to try to get grants. Now, I've been a big supporter of pool. I've been in contact throughout the years with Gail and Diane, and if we were to cut down on this pool, my father, who, God bless his soul, wanted to buy a brand new car in the 80s. He said, well, you know what? I can save $100 if I don't get a radio. I'm like, Dad, that's gonna be $3 a month. Cars back then were cheaper. Well, I can save some money if I don't get air. But Dad, you're gonna save what, $20 a month, and you're gonna sweat like you wouldn't believe. So with all respect to my fellow council members, if we say, okay, dumb down the pool, it's not gonna go down that far because you're basically dealing with the same structure. Okay, we don't get the white wall tires and you save $10 a month. It doesn't really pan out to where it's worth it, especially on a project, a pool. The last one lasted, what, 70 years? If we were to do this and it lasted another 70 years, in my opinion, you do it full way or not. But we've got to decide as a community, as a council, is this community willing to pay more in taxes to have a pool? And we have to look inside ourselves and say, are we the ones who are gonna use that pool? It's gonna be just a few of the same kids? Is it worth you looking at the numbers he gave and saying, I'm willing to pay that much more taxes? Because we can't do both. I don't see how we do both. Boardwalk and the pool. That's just my.
If I could. I think that one of the things that we seriously need to remember in all of this is that we are not a wealthy community.
Right.
We are not a wealthy community. And we need to work within. I like the pool just as much as anybody, but we're not a wealthy community, so when we look at what we want to see with this pool, and like Ray had said, we went up to a good chunk of money, and then now we're at a higher chunk of money. And yeah, we've got to, if we're gonna do this pool, we gotta figure this out quick, because the prices for things are only gonna keep going up, which is how we got to where we are right now, from 1.7 to what, 2.3.
Right.
Given that, again, we're not a wealthy community. And there's gonna be things like the boardwalk, there are things that have to be done that after decades of not being done, they're now in our laps. And fairy dust isn't gonna pay for them. But we have to remember, we are not a wealthy community. We are not, we've gotta pay for this. No matter how, if we ask people to pay more taxes, or we pay for this out of the general fund. In addition, like, we've gotta pay for maintenance on this. So all of these things need to be considered. My opinion is that, especially given, you know, the time crunch with the contractor, I think we need to, as much as you hate to do, start from ground zero again. Get another drawing, get another design, and go get the architect, the one that we're working with now, and have him.
The cost is only gonna go up.
I
Mary Ellen?
understand that, but
Mrs. Yes,
scale this
Mrs.
down.
Yes, Mrs. Gerson.
I have some answers to the questions.
Yes,
that
please.
Council members have brought up, so to, Pro Tem Martin's comment about, the loss of the pool every year. In 2017-18, the pool lost $51,115. In 2018-19, it lost $48,990.
What was the first number?
51,115, and the largest operating cost is the lifeguard wages, which is about $26,000 of that amount. In addition, Councilman Bembas, you asked about how many people. So last year the pool was open, in In 2018 and 19, the number of kids taking swimming lessons was 65. Those were 21 kids from Algonac, 28 from Clay Township, and 16 other. Number of visits to the pool, so could be, the same person may have gone 10 times,
Right.
but the number of pool visits, total number was 1,899. There was 1,413 Algonac residents, 257 Clay, 91 Marine City Cotterville, 26 Fairhaven Ira, New Baltimore Chesterfield 20, and other was 92.
So, okay, so 1,900, we could say. So then, we'd be spending $80 per household in Algonac to pay for each visit that happens. If we pick up this, my calculations right.
Additionally, Mayor Dallas, Councilwoman Davey is talking about, the pool, so, we've already been talking to the architect about reworking the plans and considering going out to bid again, throwing out these bids and going out. He's gonna look at eliminating the zero entry, eliminating the splash pad, reducing the size of the pool by about 30 feet, eliminating the picnic area, using cheaper fencing and railing. Eliminating that 30 feet, means it's not gonna be swim team usable.
Right.
So it'd be a lot smaller. A big part of the cost is the cost of concrete.
Right.
You know, it's all concrete. He doesn't know if he can get you're hoping to get it down by $1.3 million. Doesn't know if he could happen. And it doesn't mean that necessarily, it's not gonna be the pool that the residents and the committee all had envisioned. It would be something much smaller. We were also talking about having it heated. That might not be an affordable cost anymore, but we are looking at that right now.
Thank you, because like I said, we've gotta possibly look at things differently.
Does anybody else have,
It's only open 3 months out of the year too, we have to remember that.
does anybody else have any questions for Mr. Campbell?
Mr. Mayor, just in general, right, should we revisit having the pool repaired? What is the longevity of the repair?
I
The
believe,
cost now of the repair, will grant funding pay for the repair that we've already captured, or is that just for new?
the grant funding we have would only pay for new, and I believe we consulted with multiple pool experts about repairing it, Mrs. Gerstenberg.
Mary Gillis, Councilman Williams, we did have, a pool expert come out and take a look at it. It's a company called Aquatic Source. There are no longer steel walled pools. They did not recommend repairing it. They didn't see any purpose in repairing it. It wasn't worth it. You'd still, even if you repaired just the pool and the leakage, you'd still have obsolete mechanical systems, still have ADA issues. There were other things. So, we went on the basis of the recommendation of the professional that it was to renovate, build new.
Anything else for Mr. Campbell?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Campbell.
Really
Will
appreciate
you
it.
stay in case, we have further questions as the community, speaks?
Thanks.
All right, thank you everybody for your patience through that long
Thank you.
presentation. Now is the time for public comment. If anybody would like to speak before the council, you have 5 minutes to speak. Please state your name. Council will.
Good evening, Council. Bernie Ferris, 669 Townsend Court. Just a couple of comments about the projects coming up. If we are to do the boardwalk, I would also consider putting in a better restroom facility. You go down to New Baltimore, Reed City, they don't have porta potties. They have nice facilities for the restrooms. And when we're coming on the pool, I believe we're getting a new beach, half mile down the road. That's something else we might consider.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak before the council?
Can I just, we're not getting a beach though, right, with that proposal?
Court already, they said they
Uh,
were.
Let me call.
Can you come up?
Yeah.
Please, thank you.
My name is Katie McCullough, 2527 St. Clair River Drive. The last proposal that I saw, there is not a beach included because of the location. Is that correct?
That's Clay.
No.
For Clay.
Yeah.
There is a beach.
There is a beach.
There is a beach.
Yeah.
That's not fair.
There is a beach.
There will be a beach, yes. There is a beach plan.
Oh, okay, county.
There was a beach.
Yeah, it's county, that's not.
No, I know it's not us, I realize it's the township, but the people that I talked to, they said because of the water discharge and the boat ramp, that they had to eliminate the beach.
It's not true.
That's not true.
No?
Not
No.
true.
No, thank you though.
Thank you.
Anybody else? See, oh,
Hi, my name is Natalie Chariot.
Hi.
I just had a quick question, I don't know if you guys are allowed to respond, I was curious why we got denied that one grant, I believe it was like the Spark Fund grant or something like that. I don't know if somebody can get me that information.
Typically, we don't do back and forth because there's a lot of information on the pool here tonight. Mrs. Gerstenberg?
Thank you, Mary Gillis. That's up to the state
Yeah.
picked the projects as to who is going to be getting the Spark grant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I just wanna make sure that, since we're talking about taxpayer dollars and everything, that we're really sure that we have experienced grant writers here. I know from my experience in other cities I've lived in, I do know a little bit about that, so just something I wanted to throw out there, that I really hope there is experience with that, area.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I really would hope, and thank you, Mayor, for letting me talk out of turn. People come up and tell us, what do you think? Do you want this pool? Do you wanna pay a little bit more in taxes? Do you not want this pool? Do you think it's too expensive? I really wanna know, and I think we all wanna know your opinion before we make this, life-changing decision for the citizens of Algonac. So please, this would be the time, for you to come up and tell us exactly what you're thinking, so that we know and we can react right away.
Or see us at any future meeting, so you have some time to think about things too.
Or look on the city website and get my phone number.
Yep.
get my-
Yep.
You send us an email.
If you need Roger, grab me.
Stop in my driveway.
There you go.
All right, seeing no more public comment, I'd like to go on to the city manager report, Mrs. Gerstenberg.
Thank you, Mayor Gillis. So we'll start with an update on Algonac Elementary. The staff has met with the private housing developer who is proposing 45 total units, 25 senior apartments and 20 family townhomes. These are not proposed low-income housing. I will repeat that again and again. It is not proposed low-income housing. It is considered affordable housing. Their next step is to do a property survey. They just received proposals for the property survey. We had a meeting today, actually. They are starting to lay out the buildings in the floor plan, but they obviously need the survey to start the site layout. They are looking at our PUD ordinance and the timetable to go to planning commission and city council. They've asked me to get them a copy of the deed. They've started to work on the title work. So we are meeting on a bi-weekly basis to make sure that the project moves along. As we've talked about numerous times, they are hoping to apply for the Michigan State Tax Credit Program. That application is due in October. The city attorney has drafted an ordinance for the pilot, which would be required for this program, which is a payment in lieu of taxes. The pilot allows the property to pay a set service charge instead of ad valorem taxes on eligible housing units. The Algonac Housing Commission currently pays a pilot. You may have noticed that the DPW removed the concrete from the playground area. There's piles of dirt there that they were trying to fill in those areas, and that they will also be removing the bushes. There is a ZBA meeting that's coming up here on June 20th. As you know, the city attorney is continuing to work on a lease with the Walpole Island Ferry. We just met recently with the customs, and they have a number of building improvements that are needed, and so we are looking to incorporate those into the proposed lease agreement. You know that there's pancake breakfast on Sunday, July 7th. There is the Brian Cuthbertson Memorial Parade coming up also on July 7th. And today we had the South Water Municipal Authority meeting this morning at 9 o'clock, so that the SMUA, SMUA meets on a monthly basis, and that is over at the wastewater treatment plant.
Thank you, Mrs. Gerstenberg.
And, I'm sorry, Mayor, and since you just mentioned that, I did want to let everybody know, already Supervisor Bryson had mentioned, last night in his meeting, just so everybody here knows, that, Brian Roy, who is the supervisor for the wastewater treatment plant, had said that due to the lining work that the city has been doing, it has resulted in some reduction in the flows from Algonac into the wastewater treatment plant. Yay. So we're actually getting there, moving along, so that was good news.
If I could ask, you are the city manager. At one time, we were talking to Senator Hertel about how possibly getting some state funds for the pool. Has anything come of that, or is it time to, knock on his door and pester him again?
I have not, Mrs. Gerstenberg, I have not heard anything.
Thank you, Mayor Gillis. We have not heard anything, specifically from, Senator Hertel. I'm sure that it would be good if people would like to pester him and remind him that Algonac is still here and in need of money. We are continuing to work with the county to look for money for both the pool and, the school.
So y'all heard that about contacting, Jay DeBoyer and Senator Hertel and saying, hey, what about Algonac? Send us some money.
Yeah, I gotta hit him up for some other funds, for something else.
Especially it's election time too, so they're more willing to, send money to the voters, so.
Anything else from Mrs. Gerstenberg? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda consists of the regular city council meeting minutes from June 4th, 2024, departmental reports for blight enforcement, building, DPW, finance, fire department, water department, communications and notices, the boards and commissions roster, the housing commission minutes, miscellaneous business to approve the water plant SCADA program emergency repair for $1,140. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Support.
Comments, questions, or concerns? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have no unfinished business, so we're moving on to new business. Item 11A is to approve the 2024 request for local millage distributions in the amount of $22,561. Every year, St. Clair County distributes a portion of the countywide Parks and Recreation millage to the local units of government based on a formula. This is the 30th year that St. Clair County will distribute the Parks and Rec Commission county millage funds collected back to local governments. At the end of our fiscal year, they request that we submit a form outlining how we spend them. In the next year, we're anticipating an increase of $1,592 to $24,153. It is recommended the city manager be authorized to sign and direct the document on behalf of the city of Algonac. Can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve St. Clair County Parks and Recreation Commission 2024 request for local millage distribution in the amount of $22,561, and authorize the city manager to sign the document on behalf of the city.
Support. Comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 11B is to approve the special events permit for Henry's Club for a cornhole fundraiser extravaganza, July 13, 2024. We have a special events permit submitted by Henry's Club for a cornhole fundraiser extravaganza on Saturday, July 13, 2024. The event will be at the north end of the Riverfront Park starting at 9 a.m. and ending approximately at 9 p.m. Tournament participants will sign up prior to the event. All documentation has been received, reviewed, and approved by the administration and the St. Clair County Sheriffs. Can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve the special event permit from Henry's Club for cornhole fundraiser extravaganza on Saturday, July 13th, 2024 at Riverfront Park.
Second.
Comments, questions, or concerns?
Just say thank you, Henry's Club, for bringing another activity to Algonac.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next up, we have item 11C is to consider approval of revision to the collective bargaining agreement between the city of Algonac and Teamsters Local 214 for the period of July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2027. The collective bargaining agreement between the city of Algonac and Teamsters 214 was approved by City Council on March 19, 2024. The current agreement expires on June 30th, 2024. The agreement was approved with a change from the existing healthcare insurance through Health Alliance Plan to the Michigan Conference of Teamsters Welfare Fund Blue Cross Blue Shield Package 963. However, on May 29, 2024, the Teamsters representative notified the city that Teamsters Welfare Fund would not extend health insurance to Algonac employees because the ratio of union members to non-bargaining members was less than 50%. Therefore, all parties have agreed to continue with the existing health insurance through Health Alliance Plan. The collective bargaining agreement has been amended accordingly. Can I have a motion, please?
I make a motion to approve the revisions to the collective bargaining agreement between the city of Algonac and Teamsters Local 214 for the period of July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2027, updating health insurance and authorize the mayor and the city clerk to sign all documents in conjunction with this approval.
Comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none, could I have a roll call, please?
Councilman Bembas?
Yes.
Councilman Carter?
Yes.
Councilwoman Davies?
Yes.
Mayor Gillis?
Yes.
Councilwoman Harris?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Williams?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Item 11D is we're being asked to approve property and liability insurance renewal. After a bid process in 2021, Nickel and Staff was approved as new insurance provider. The proposed premium from Nickel and Staff is approximately 5.5% higher than last year due to inflation protection and the newly acquired school building. It is important to note that Algonac has better coverage in all areas with Trident through Nickel and Staff than it ever has. In the last 3 years, Nickel and Staff has saved the city over $15,000 in premiums alone. This policy is in effect for 1 year and has a change from a renewal date of September 18th to July 1st, making the new policy effective July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025. Nickel and Staff is a well-respected agency who has served numerous public entities and accountants throughout Michigan since 1929, largely due to the excellent service they provide. They currently serve many surrounding communities in St. Clair County, including Marine City, Ira Township, and the city of Marysville. Can I have a motion, please?
I move to approve the property and liability insurance renewal from Nickel and Staff Incorporated, whose address is 44 Macomb Place, Mount Clemens, for the period July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2025, in the amount of $64,517.
Support.
Comments, questions, concerns? Hearing none, could I have a roll call, please?
Councilman Carter?
Yes.
Councilwoman Davies?
Yes.
Mayor Gillis?
Yes.
Councilwoman Harris?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Williams?
Yes.
Councilman Bembas?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Item 11E is to consider appointments and reappointments to boards and commissions. The following would like to be considered for an appointment. Deborah Jo Green for a partial term ending June 30th, 2028. The following would like to be considered for reappointment to the following. Dangerous Building Commission. Chuck Bailey, term ending July 1st, 2024. Joseph Doan, term ending July 1st, 2024. Daryl Sabota, term ending July 1st, 2024. Kimberly Catanucci on housing, term ending June 30th, 2024. And on Planning Commission, we have Michelle Nolan with her term ending July 17th, 2024. It's the Boards and Commissions appointment policy approved by City Council in December 2015 that states new applicants will not be sought out in case of request of reappointment unless by the majority of council. Can I have a motion, please?
I'd like a motion to appoint the newly appointed to Housing Commission, Deborah Jo Green, and to reappoint Chuck Bailey, Joe Doan, Daryl Spoda to the Dangerous Building Committee ending in 2027, Kimberly Catanucci to the Housing Commission for a 5-year term ending June 30th, 2029, and Michelle Nolan to the Planning Commission for a 3-year term ending 2027.
Support.
Comments, questions, concerns?
I do have a question. I thought we had another opening on, zoning, on the ZBA. Do we? When are we gonna put that one up to be filled?
Do we have any applicants for that currently?
We do.
Not specifically for zoning. We have applications.
Any other discussion?
I assume we'll have it soon? With the light?
Do we have it? The mayor does.
Oh, well, that,
Director to.
director.
I guess we can.
Yeah, we can,
We can, okay. Yeah.
everybody, we gotta
Any-
make it.
Anybody, well, I wanna, first of all, before we move on, before we take a vote, I wanna thank all of you who have signed up to be reappointed to boards, and we know it's really the best type of volunteerism when you're volunteering, you know, cause you do it for the love of your city. So, thank you. Hearing one more discussion, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 11F is to approve water plant generator annual service contract. The generator at the water plant requires an annual service contract to maintain emergency preparedness. Emergency Repair has made the repairs to the generator in the past and performed it satisfactorily. We have a list of the services that will be performed annually. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the water plant generator annual service contract with Rumenax Repair, whose address is 8320 Broadbridge Road, Fairhaven, Michigan, 48023, in the amount of $1,425.
Second. Comments, questions, concerns? Hearing none, could I have a roll call, please?
Councilwoman Davies,
Yes.
Mayor Gillis,
Yes.
Councilwoman Harris.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Martin,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
Councilman Bembas,
Yes.
Councilman Carter.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Item 11G is to adopt the resolution 2024-08 for the M29 road diet. The Michigan Department of Transportation has approached the city of Algonac and asked to schedule a $1 million project on M29 from Nook Road to Smith Street. MDOT is funding 100% of the project with surplus for the 2024-2025 winter maintenance fund. This MDOT project would include resurfacing on 29, upgrading all sidewalk ramps to meet ADA standards, and a road diet, which would be conversion of the 5-lane pavement sections from Kroger Driveway to St. River Drive to a 3-lane pavement section to make a more consistent cross-section, and the realignment of lanes from St. River Drive to Smith Street, so there's 3 12-foot lanes with an 8-foot shoulder on the east side. The purpose of the road diet is to improve traffic safety by reducing and narrowing driving lanes with pavement marking, which can reduce crashes due to reduced speed and fewer opportunities for collisions. The entire project will be completed by October 24 and will not interfere with the pickleball tournament or the art fair. An open house was held at Algonac City Hall on May 28, 2024 to inform the public about the project. There is currently no parking on M29 and this project will not change that. The city may consider parking on the east side in the future. Can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to adopt resolution 2024-08, supporting the Michigan Department of Transportation M29 road diet project as recommended by MDOT.
Second. Comments, questions, concerns?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. When they were here, they said we had to have a resolution approved into them by when? Mr. Mayor?
Mrs. Kirstenberg?
As soon as possible, they have a contractor ready to start immediately.
Did they say something about July, or no? That it had to be in by?
Yeah, well, yeah, he wanted it on an agenda as soon as possible because the contractor wanted to get going.
The reason that I asked is because they were kind of vague when they came to give the presentation. And I'm sure that they have, diagrams and pictures to help explain what this is. It's hard to explain to residents when they ask, if I don't have, a picture, if I don't have really anything. And I know that that the resolution, gives, 8 foot and all that. It's difficult to explain to people when they ask how this is gonna go. And like I said, unfortunately, I was hoping when they came, they would give us a little bit more something than they did. And so I'm wondering, and I know that they want to get this done and all of that, but
I
if
can
we
get you
could
a
table
picture.
it.
I can get you a picture. I will get with MDOT and I will get them a picture so that you can have that available to the residents.
Oh, okay, thank you so much. Cause I'm like, yeah, okay, these are something, but that means nothing to me until I see a pretty picture. Thank you.
Absolutely.
For all
Not a
talking
problem.
about Denise,
Everything that goes to one council goes to all council.
Just, go Go ahead.
No, you go this time.
Oh, sorry. Just to update everybody out there who may be interested or not aware of this. Basically, what they're gonna do is the part of M29 by McDonald's will be 2 lanes instead of 5, and they'll be parking on each side of the street or open lanes. And then out here, it'll just be 2 lanes with a possibility, if we decide at a later date, for some parking, but at this point, not. And then they also told us that if we decide that we don't like it, they can come and restripe it. So the paving is gonna be the same no matter what. Now, we do have an opportunity in the future saying, this is not working, we want it back to the old thing. So I think it's well worth taking a chance and doing it the way that, the state wants, just because it's supposed to be more safe. It also causes people to drive a little bit slower through town so where they can see our businesses and our boardwalk and maybe even stop and spend a couple dollars.
Councilman Martin, or Mayor Pro Tem Martin.
A short comment in that, historically, when they first did the revision on lanes, it was flow. So we were working with, when we were trying to talk about parking out here, maybe angle parking in or different things, they were always saying flow. Now this seems to me to be a reverse in slowing down, not flowing through. And the question that I have, when it says 3 lanes pavement, is that a turn lane?
Yes.
The center turn?
Yeah.
Yes, there will continue to be a center turn lane.
And so there will be a center turn lane all the way from the city limits to Smith Street.
No, just up there.
Rob?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the center turn lane would start at Kroger and end at the library. There'd still be a center turn lane.
That's not my understanding at all.
Which is why we need a picture.
Yes, there will be, they're making it consistently 3 lanes, so you will have northbound, southbound, and the center lane. In front of the park here, you're going to have a shoulder, an 8-foot shoulder along the park. You'll have a solid white line.
With 2 lanes. With 2 lanes. Or no?
No, it's just one 8-foot shoulder, so the one 8-foot shoulder, northbound lane, center lane, and then a southbound lane.
How are they gonna put an 8-foot shoulder on?
Which is
So-
why we need a picture.
Because the lanes are so wide right now, remember when he talked about it, he compared our lanes to like expressway lanes, they're way wider than they need to be.
I believe the comparison was I-94 has 12-foot lanes. We have 16-foot lanes on M29 by our boardwalk.
And this will work to.
Overall picture is you're getting $1 million worth of work and resurfacing done. And they're recommending a striping program that they feel will make a more consistent cross-section, a realignment of the lanes. There'll be narrower lanes, slow down traffic, there'll be a shoulder there. Right now, as you know, when we have the art fair, we have events, we are parking cars there for those events for the security of the patrons of those events, right? So that 8-foot shoulder, you know, would work out great. When we have music in the park, the food truck is parked there, we have to put like arrow signs behind it. Now it will be an 8-foot shoulder. So if it doesn't work out, you can ask MDOT to change it and they can go back to the original.
So, I mean, we go ahead, we approve this, and this is just a matter of, you know, cause they're not talking, they'll be done till October. So we could, you know, go ahead and do this, and should we say, okay, boys, this isn't quite working out for us, we can change it.
Yes, that's what they said. That's what they said.
But we're still gonna get some pictures, right?
Well,
I will get you pictures.
Thank you.
And I guess I kind of, one thing I was looking at and I was thinking about, you know, you look at old Algonac and it's time that everybody talks about before urban renewal, we did have lots of businesses, we didn't have 5 lanes. You know, if do we want to have people driving fast to try to pass people, or do we want them to have them be slow and be able to look at our businesses? We still would have the right-hand shoulders.
Mr. Mayor, one question.
See, let me just finish. We still would have the right-hand shoulder to go, to turn into different plazas. And if we don't think differently and act differently, we're not gonna have businesses. So we can only do so many things to try to encourage businesses here. And some of it is slowing the traffic down. So when people are driving from Port Huron to 23, getting off and driving, then maybe they can see something in our town that they've never seen before. So So if they're going a little bit slower, there's more traffic at Kroger than there is at Speedway, and I think our lanes can be reduced, and if it doesn't work, we can always switch back. Yes, Councilman Williams?
And just to clarify, from Michigan Street to the first lot in Kroger heading actually south, will that have a right turn lane for the businesses from Michigan to State? And then what about at that Kroger driveway?
Nothing will be changing at the Kroger driveway, if I'm not mistaken, from the documents that, and at the meeting, the MDOT advisor said that the shoulder is allowed to be used for right turns. You can pull onto the road for shoulders to make a right turn, so you don't actually need a turn lane. He did explain.
I'm all about, guys, I'm all about that picture.
Please get her a picture.
So, yeah, I'm all about the picture. I need a picture.
Anybody else? Any other questions?
I understand that the speed limit's not going down, people just drive safer.
Right. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mayor Gillis.
Yes.
Councilwoman Harris.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Martin.
Yes.
Councilman Williams.
No.
Councilman Bembas.
Yes.
Councilman Carter.
Yes.
Councilwoman Davis.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Next up is item 11H, to adopt resolution 2024-09, supporting the MDOT Shared Streets and Spaces Grant for a path at Lionsfield. The MDOT Shared Streets and Spaces Grant will provide funding for the development of public recreation facilities. It includes the development of new facilities and the renovation of old facilities. This one-time MDOT grant opportunity to provide up to $200,000 grant with no matching requirements for projects that support of public health, safe mobility, and strengthen commerce. Sampling projects include trails, sidewalks, widening, crossing upgrades, etc. This project needs to be quick to build, easily implemented. To accept the grant funding, the city will need to make a financial commitment to the project in the amount of $44,294. The grant application to MDOT will be available for funding in the amount of $200,000 for a total project cost of $244,924. This same project was also submitted to DNR for a Michigan Trust Fund grant. This application requires a resolution from the governing body. The resolution supports submission of the application and commitment to the local match. Can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to adopt resolution 2024-09, supporting the MDOT Shared Streets and Spaces Grant for a path at Lions Field.
Support.
Comments, questions, concerns? Can I have a roll call, please?
Councilwoman Harris.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Martin.
Yes.
Councilman Williams.
Yes.
Councilman Bembas.
Yes.
Councilman Carter.
Yes.
Councilwoman Davis.
Yes.
Mayor Gillis.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Next up, we have accounts payable.
I make a motion to approve accounts payable and payroll in the amount of $164,075.21.
Support.
Comments, questions, concerns? What's up? Yeah, I think so. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
I.
Oh, I'm sorry, we gotta do a roll
We
call.
gotta do roll call on that.
Sorry. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Martin.
Yes.
Councilman Williams.
Yes.
Councilman Bembas.
Yes.
Councilman Carter.
Yes.
Councilwoman Davis.
Yes.
Mayor Gillis.
Yes.
Councilwoman Harris.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Items for next agenda, Mrs. Herstenberg.
Thank you, Mayor Gillis. We have the water plant lab services agreement, workers' comp insurance renewal. We may have, a brownfield plan for the Cordis development, boards and commissions appointment, and the South Water Municipal Utility Authority appointments.
Thank you. Council comments? Councilman Bembas?
Right, well, first I wanna say, good job, Dale, on your first time here, welcome aboard. And I'm gonna say thank you to everybody who came out here regarding the pool, we've got a lot of work to do, but, I'm gonna ask all of you guys, you gotta talk to us, you gotta tell the people on council whether you're for or against it, you gotta speak up, and tell us. This is a big commitment, this is a lifetime of Algonac commitment, nothing like this has happened in Algonac since urban renewal. So we gotta know number one, what direction the city wants us to go, you know, the citizens want us to go, before we can even say, can we get there? So please express your opinions to everybody up here. Without your opinion, things can happen and we look back and we say, man, that's not what we wanted, just like a lot of us look back now and say, man, urban renewal wasn't the greatest. Well, you gotta fuss with us, you gotta talk to us, you gotta let us know. Okay, since, Gail Anthony's here, and since she's being quiet, she didn't tell anybody that tomorrow at the Lutheran Church, it's a community dinner, open to the whole public. It's free, you can stop by, everybody knows where the Lutheran Church is on Washington and Green, and it is Taco Loco. And it's, everybody likes, who doesn't like a taco, right? Come and have a taco. It's gonna be good. Usually get 70, 80 people there just hanging out, and this month we'll be eating tacos. And, do we have anybody sitting in the back row named Joe whose birthday was yesterday or today? We got 2 Joes back there. Happy birthday, Joe and Joe. I think they both told me they were both 28. I think one of them is fibbing. Happy birthday, guys. And, I think that's all I got today.
Okay, Councilman Carter?
Thanks everyone that came to share with us and to speak about the pool and to explore with us the funding. I'll reiterate what Councilman Bimbis said. We're taking this very, very seriously, and we wanna do what you want. So please let us know if you're for or against, or what your suggestions are. I wanna thank everyone for the boards and commissions, the ones that are being renewed, and the new members, and also those that take care of month-to-month meeting and helping us in the city. Weather's getting nice, watch out for your neighbors. It's kind of warm today, the air conditioners were going, my lights flickered a couple times, and I noticed that people are posting for fans, and I know we've got some elderly, so if you see somebody not out and about, maybe check on them, make sure they're okay. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilwoman Davey?
I have said it a million times, and I'll say it again, thank you all for coming. Ladies and gentlemen, it makes a difference. I don't know how many times rooftops I can scream it from. To see bodies in this building always makes me incredibly happy. It makes a difference. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I'm not gonna, and don't like get shocked or anything. Don't have that much to say tonight, cause we pretty much said everything tonight. There's gonna be a lot of discussion on a lot of things. And we're gonna figure it out, and a whole bunch of people will ask this, that, and the other thing. Keep asking, keep giving ideas, right? Somebody might think of something that we didn't think of up here. Always wanting to know, so, and that's all I got.
Councilwoman Harris?
I just wanna thank everybody for coming in, congratulate all the boards and commission members, and, yes, reach out to us and let us know your opinions and feelings about the pool. Thank you very much.
Mayor Pro Tem Mark?
Welcome, Dale. And, I also want to thank the boards and commissions members for returning or new member. And you may not believe it, but I grew up in that pool from when it was built. And I'm pro pool, and I hope I'm not coming across with my questions and statements that I'm against building a pool. I just want to be fiscally responsible in what we do. Thank you.
Councilman Williams?
I just want to thank everybody for coming tonight. It's super, super important that we hear from the people of the city on the pool. Same with the boardwalk, as much input I guess I would say the more input, the better. Also like to thank council for the appointments of the board. And just for everybody to try and stay as cool as possible in the next couple days.
Thank you. I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight too. It was a long meeting, a lot of information for everybody, and I appreciate everybody's patience and their cooperation as we listened. I'm not gonna talk too much because I don't have much to say, except for Thursday night, we have the Old Day Chicago Tribute, sponsored by Kane's Club in Yakima and Downey here at the Riverfront Park, Music in the Park, and also sponsored by Timberwood. Like I said, keep track of your neighbors. I know tomorrow's supposed to be hot again. The library is closed for a cooling center. So I think if another cooling center opens up, we will notify people, but the library will be closed tomorrow for the holiday. So with that, motion.
Would like to make a motion to adjourn.
I know, right?
I'm just kidding. All in favor?
Aye.
Sam got his kids.